The council chamber stank of arrogance that day. Captain Matthew Rains had stood at the long, gleaming obsidian table for 6 hours, listening to smug words dressed up as diplomacy. Around him, the great powers of the galaxy, the Varkari, the Junoan Syndics, the Orekth Dominion, had taken turns reminding humanity of its place. A young species, a dangerous species, a species that should know better than to demand equal standing. Matthew had known it was coming. The signs were all there. Even before Earth's delegation had entered the spiral tower of the Galactic Council on Varos Prime, rumors of betrayal had reached their ears. Promised trade deals were being quietly scuttled. Treaty guarantees had been rewritten without notice. Council members whispered about sanctions and containment. And now, after 6 hours of thinly veiled threats masked as peace talks, it was official. Humanity was being boxed in, neutered, smiled at and stabbed in the back. Matthew's jaw was tight as Councillor Drellis of the Varkari finished speaking, her 4 eyes glittering with false kindness. "And so, for the preservation of galactic harmony," she said, "Earth must agree to the proposed restrictions on its military expansion. Surely, Captain Rains, you can see this is for the greater good." The chamber was silent, all eyes on him. The translation implants fed the words into his ear in perfect clarity. For the greater good. For the greater good of whom? Matthew thought grimly. Certainly not Earth. He rose from his seat slowly, deliberately. Behind him, Ambassador Holt and the rest of the Earth delegation looked pale, their lips tight. They knew what was coming. Matthew didn't bother with the usual courtesy phrases. No flowery acknowledgments, no feigned gratitude for the Council's guidance. He stared at them, the smug faces of the species who had once begged for Earth's help against the Trivar incursions just a decade ago. Back when humanity's fleets had turned the tide, saving 6 core worlds. How quickly gratitude faded. His voice, when it came, was cold steel. "Let me be clear," he said. "Earth will not surrender its right to defend itself. Nor will we accept being treated as a subordinate species in a council where we have bled and sacrificed more than most." Drellis blinked, her smile fading. The Orekth warlord to her left rumbled in disapproval. Matthew pressed on. His gaze swept the chamber, locking eyes with each representative. "For months," he said, "we've honored these peace talks, despite provocations, despite the sabotage of our trade routes, despite the Council's refusal to address attacks on our colonies. And today, you expect us to sign away our future." He let the words hang. "Earth will not comply. Effective immediately, we are withdrawing from these negotiations." A shocked murmur swept the room. One of the Junoan Syndics, pale and elegant, half rose from her seat. "Captain Rains, surely you—" "I am not finished." Matthew's voice cut through the chamber like a blade. "We will return to Sol. Any further aggression against human interests will be met in kind. If the Council chooses to escalate, know that humanity does not fear war." Silence, heavy, thick, oppressive. Finally, Councillor Drellis spoke again, her voice brittle. "This is a dangerous course, Captain. It will isolate your species." Matthew allowed himself a thin smile, not one of warmth, but of contempt. "We'd rather stand alone than kneel among liars." Without another word, he turned. The human delegation followed, boots echoing against the polished floor as they strode from the chamber. Behind them, the stunned council members sat frozen. In the hours that followed, the news swept across the galaxy. Humans withdraw from peace talks. The Galaxy Council admits its blunder. The headlines were everywhere. Public outcry in some sectors, quiet panic in others. On Earth, there was grim approval. Humanity had been humiliated enough. Back on his ship, ISS Revenant, Matthew watched the news feeds with a stony expression. Too late, the Council was scrambling, issuing statements, offering half-hearted apologies, blaming miscommunication. But the die was cast. And Matthew knew one thing. There would be no peace now. The ISS Revenant slipped into high orbit above Veros Prime within the hour, its massive bulk dwarfing the civilian vessels clustered near the station rings. From the ship's command deck, Captain Matthew Rains stood at the main viewport, arms folded, eyes cold. "Status?" he asked. Commander Briggs, a grizzled veteran with deep lines on his face and a voice like gravel, answered without hesitation. "Our delegation is aboard. All ships in the Solarian fleet are reporting ready for departure." "Any sign of pursuit?" Briggs shook his head. "Nothing overt, but the local traffic controls stalling our clearance. Probably waiting for a council warship to escort us." Matthew's jaw clenched. Of course they were. "Run a full ECM sweep. Ready shields and weapons, quietly. If they try to box us in, we punch through." Briggs's smile was grim. "Understood." Matthew turned back to the viewport, watching the swirling clouds of the planet below. It had been a damn long few weeks. Months, really, of hollow speeches, false promises, and quiet betrayals. And now, finally, humanity had made its stand. But stands had consequences. He keyed the communication. "Get me Ambassador Holt." A moment later, Holt's face appeared on the console. Weary, drawn. The man looked 10 years older than he had a month ago. "Captain," Holt greeted him. "I assume you've seen the Council's latest statement." "I've seen it." It was pathetic. The Council's official communiqué had gone out just minutes after they'd stormed from the chamber. A desperate attempt to control the narrative. Words like misunderstanding, temporary withdrawal, ongoing friendship were thrown around. Hollow bullshit. "They're trying to paint us as unstable aggressors," Holt said bitterly, "saying our withdrawal was emotional, impulsive." Matthew snorted. "Let them. Anyone paying attention knows the truth." Holt leaned forward slightly. "EarthGov's already responding. President Langley issued a statement an hour ago. We're mobilizing reserves." Matthew's eyes narrowed. That was faster than he'd expected, but not surprising. The writing had been on the wall for weeks. The blockade of the Martian trade convoys, the pirate raids in the Tau Ceti colonies that had Council fingerprints all over them. The assassination attempt on the Terran ambassador last month, quietly swept under the rug. And now, open political isolation. "What's our fallback?" Matthew asked. Holt's mouth was tight. "Fleet Command's issuing silent orders to all Solarian task forces. Defensive posture. But we both know that's going to escalate. The Orekth will push. The Varkari won't want..."